Tokyo, January 26, 1948. A man wearing a public health armband raises a small cup, drinks first, and watches 16 people copy him. But he is not treating an outbreak. The liquid contains cyanide, and within minutes, bodies begin falling across the bank floor. 12 people will die, including an 8-year-old child. Decades later, the poison is still disputed, and the convicted painter may have been innocent. The stranger arrived shortly after the Shiyanamachi branch had closed. Employees, the caretaker, and members of his family were still inside. He claimed a customer had exposed the bank to dysentery. Officials were supposedly disinfecting the neighborhood, and everyone inside required immediate medicine. The man invoked GHQ, the occupation authority then governing Japan. In that tense post-war world, the claim carried enormous weight. He warned that the first medicine could harm their teeth. Then he demonstrated exactly how to place the liquid on the tongue and swallow without touching them. Roughly 1 minute later, he distributed a second liquid. The victim soon felt burning pain, dizziness, and paralysis as the room dissolved into panic. 4 people survived. Their memories would become central to the case, but shock, time, photographs, and police procedures would complicate what they believed they saw. While his victims lay helpless, the attacker moved behind the counter. He stole exactly 164,410 yen in cash and a check worth 17,450 yen. The following day, someone cashed that check at Yasuda Bank's Itabashi branch. It was one of the killer's few physical trails, and it led nowhere certain. The attack looked polished because it may not have been the first attempt. Police soon connected it to 2 strange encounters at other Tokyo banks. On October 14, 1947, a man entered Yasuda Bank's Ibara branch with a similar epidemic warning. That deception failed before anyone died. He left behind a genuine business card belonging to health official Shigeru Matsui. 100 copies have been printed, giving investigators a limited pool to trace. That card came from the Ibara rehearsal, not the Teigin murder scene. At Teigin, the attacker apparently reclaimed his card after the deputy manager read it. A second attempt followed on January 19, 1948, at Mitsubishi Bank's Nakai branch. This time, the visitor used a fabricated card for a Dr. Jiro Yamaguchi. The same pattern kept returning: disease, official authority, 2 medicines, and a calm demonstration. The killer seemed prepared, disciplined, and familiar with medical procedure. Police first searched among doctors, chemists, epidemic control specialists, and former military researchers. The performance suggested expertise that an ordinary robber might not possess. Detective Bunsuke Kai's surviving investigation notes show that police examined former members of Unit 731, the Noborito Laboratory, and military chemical warfare units. These were not invented connections. Japanese military programs had researched cyanide compounds, assassination poisons, epidemic warfare, and lethal experiments on human beings. American occupation authorities also protected Unit 731 Commander Shiro Ishii and associates from war crimes prosecution in exchange for their experimental data. That arrangement is documented, but documentation of that bargain does not prove Unit 731 committed the bank attack. It only explains why investigators might have entered politically dangerous territory. Former officers warned police that military secrets would be difficult to pursue under GHQ. Then, shortly before a major arrest, the military line lost prominence. No recovered order says GHQ stopped the Teigin investigation. A political diversion is a coherent theory, but the missing documentary link prevents it from becoming fact. The investigation instead focused on Sadamichi Hirasawa, a 56-year-old tempera painter. Police questioned him in Otaru on June 12th and arrested him on August 21st. Hirasawa had received one of Matsui's genuine business cards, but could not produce it. He said his wallet had been stolen, and he had previously reported a theft. That made him interesting, not unique. 100 cards existed, and possession of a missing card did not show who carried the Ibarra card into the bank. Money created a darker question. 3 days after the murders, Hirasawa deposited 80,000 yen under the name Hayashi Kiichi and gave his wife roughly 54,000 to 55,000 yen. He also spent money on travel despite apparent financial trouble. Yet investigators never traced those funds to Teikoku Bank or recovered any stolen property from him. Hirasawa later claimed the money came from secretly producing shunga, erotic paintings he could not openly discuss. The explanation was never verified. Handwriting experts compared him with the false endorsement on the stolen check. Some called it the same hand. Others found similarities without reaching a firm conclusion. Courts also relied on witnesses who identified Hirasawa as identical or similar to the attacker. Yet several identifications grew stronger only after photographs and press exposure. Modern psychologists warn that repeated exposure and suggestive confrontations can reshape recognition. A sincere witness may become more confident while becoming no more accurate. The courts found Hirasawa had enough time to reach the bank. The defense argued that transport schedules and poor post-war roads made the prosecution's timeline doubtful. Then came the confession. Detained on a separate fraud allegation, Hirasawa faced roughly 50 interrogations over 39 days without recordings or modern legal safeguards. Between September 21 and 23, his statements shifted toward confession. By the first trial hearing on December 10th, he denied committing the crimes. The confession reportedly changed on the poison, its source, its containers, and how it was administered. No undisputed secret detail has emerged that only the killer could know. Hirasawa's mental history made the problem harder. A 1925 post-rabies vaccination illness had been followed by severe memory difficulties, confabulation, and personality changes. Original experts treated his false stories as a personality problem while accepting the confession. Later defense psychologists argued he could absorb suggestions and build them into sincere memory. That is a false confession theory, not proof of one. The Supreme Court found his statements voluntary, orderly, detailed, and supported by the other evidence. Tokyo District Court sentenced Hirasawa to death on July 24, 1950. The High Court upheld it in 1951, and the Supreme Court rejected his appeal in 1955. The most unsettling gap involved the weapon itself. Police recovered no poison from Hirasawa and established no route by which he had obtained it. He had no demonstrated toxicological training. Nevertheless, the Supreme Court ruled that prosecutors did not need independent proof of how he possessed or acquired the poison. One fact is beyond dispute. Autopsies detected cyanide in all 12 victims. But identifying cyanide poisoning is not the same as identifying the exact chemical formulation. The original judgment called the first liquid potassium cyanide and the second water. Critics argued that ordinary potassium cyanide did not explain every feature of the deaths. Acetone cyanohydrin later became a popular theory because military researchers had studied cyanide compounds, and its supposed delay appeared to fit the two-dose performance. Yet, the 1986 retrial decision rejected the claim that acetone cyanohydrin had been proved. nor is there evidence that the second liquid chemically activated the first. Recent defense-associated research has questioned both leading theories. One forensic hypothesis suggests a cyanogenic glycoside or mixed compound, based partly on unusual cyanide concentrations. It remains only a hypothesis. More than 78 years after the murders, the victims unquestionably died from cyanide, but the precise compound remains disputed. The alternative suspect theory faces the same limit. Police truly investigated people with relevant military expertise, but no named former officer was reliably placed inside the bank. Lieutenant Colonel Showa is often named in later theories. No physical evidence, verified confession, or reliable eyewitness identification tied him to the poisoning. The strongest case for doubt does not require naming another killer. It begins with everything missing from Hirasawa's case: poison, stolen property, a crime scene trace, and proven expertise. Then come the positive weaknesses: prolonged unrecorded questioning, shifting statements, divided handwriting opinions, vulnerable identifications, and money that looked suspicious but was never traced. Still, calling the case empty would be dishonest. Hirasawa had the missing card problem, concealed financial transactions, incriminating handwriting opinions, witness identifications, and a detailed confession. That conflict followed Hirasawa for the rest of his life. Ministers repeatedly declined to carry out the execution, but delay alone proves neither innocence nor official knowledge of error. He died from pneumonia on May 10, 1987, aged 95, after about 39 years in custody and 32 years under a finalized death sentence. His supporters continued after his death. A 19th retrial petition was filed in 1989, followed by a 20th petition in November 2015. On March 27, 2025, the Tokyo High Court terminated the 20th proceeding after Hirasawa's grandson, the petitioner, died. The Supreme Court rejected the lawyer's challenge in April. A qualifying relative could legally file a 21st petition. As of July 18, 2026, no public confirmation of a new filing had been located. So the honest verdict remains uncomfortable. Hirasawa's guilt is possible, a wrongful conviction is plausible, and a former military offender is possible, but none is proved with confidence. The documented protection of Unit 731 gives the cover-up theory historical weight. The absence of a Teigin-specific order keeps it from crossing the line into established history, and the confession cannot settle everything when the weapon, expertise, and physical trail remain missing. Nor can those gaps erase the evidence that first convinced the courts. Inside that bank, the killer won by looking calm, official, and certain. The case endured because every answer afterward carried less certainty than his disguise. Was an eccentric painter allowed to die under a wrongful sentence? Or did decades of uncertainty slowly transform a guilty man into a symbol of injustice?